Welcome to the online teaching session of Arihant English Medium School for the academic year 2020-21. So my dear students, in last session we saw the first half of 6th chapter, that is beginning of freedom movement. Now we will see the remaining point. Yes, we will start with the partition of Bengal. The British decided to use the policy of divide and rule to create a rift between Hindu and Muslim community. As we know that it is a very old weapon of Britishers. Whenever they see that there is a unity between people of different caste, community, they always use this weapon, that is divide and rule policy, so that people should start fighting among themselves and forget that they have to unite and fight against the British. And they did the same in Bengal for Bengal partition, and they created rift between Hindu and Muslim community. The then Viceroy Lord Curzon contributed to it. Bengal was a very large province. To carry out the work of this province was difficult from administrative point of view. By putting up this reason in 1905, he declared the partition of Bengal province. So at that time, the viceroy was Lord Curzon. What he did, what he told, that Bengal is a very big province. By giving this reason, he told that from administrative point of view, it is difficult to administer such a big province. Hence, we are dividing it. He told it in 1905. With this partition, arrangements was made such that majority Muslims will remain in East Bengal and West Bengal for majority of Hindus. The hidden strategy of British was, if the Hindu Muslims were divided due to partition, then the freedom movement will be weakened. Yes, dear students. So with this partition, what was his intention? To keep Muslim majority area in East Bengal and Hindu majority area in West Bengal. And with this, what he thought, if we divide Hindus and Muslims, they won't come together and won't fight against us. This was his real intention behind the partition of Bengal. Now, anti-partition movement. There was public awakening against partition not only in Bengal but all over India. 16 October, the day of partition, was observed as National Mourning Day. Yes, my dear students, though Bengal was partitioned, but its anti-partition movements, processions were seen not only in Bengal but all the parts of our country. And the date on which partition was declared, that is 16th October, it was observed as National Mourning Day. All over India, there were protest meetings to condemn the government's decision. Vande Mataram came to be sung everywhere as a symbol of unity. Raksha Bandhan programs were held. So, people, to awaken all the peoples, to increase strength, unity, they started giving the slogans of Vande Mataram, and to make a unity between Hindus and Muslims, they started the festival of Raksha Bandhan. Students in large number boycotted government schools and colleges and participated in the movement. The leadership of this movement was in the hands of Surendranath Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose, Rabindranath Tagore, and such other leaders. The extent of Indian National Congress increased due to the anti-partition movement. It became a national movement. Owing to the severity of dissatisfaction, the British annulled the partition of Bengal. Yes, so one after another, all the organization or in all the parts of India, you can say processions, meetings start taking place on large scale. Even the students, school going students, college going students, they boycotted the schools, colleges and took part in procession against the Britishers. So because of which what happened, lot of, you can say, angerness was seen against the British, and you can say British had to reverse their decision of partition of Bengal due to the severity of this movement. What was seen? Yes, the Britishers annulled the partition of Bengal. So it was the first win of our citizens, my dear students. Now we will see the four-point program of Indian National Congress. Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the president of Indian National Congress session of 1905. He supported the anti-partition movement. Yes, so Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the president of Indian National Congress session of 1905 and he supported the anti-partition movement as everyone supported it. Dadabhai Nauroji was the president of 1906 session. For first time, he pronounced the word Swaraj from the stage. In his presidential speech, he gave the message that remain united, try sincerely, and fulfill the aim of Swaraj so that today we will be able to save lakhs of people suffering from poverty, hunger, diseases, and India will get a respectable position among developed countries. Yes, my dear students. So, Dadabhai Naoroji, who was the president of 1900 session, he for the first time pronounced the word Swaraj from the stage and gave his message, gave his speech, and he told that all the Indians should remain united so that in future we will otherwise we will be suffering from various, you can say, problems like poverty, hunger, disease. Hence, to make our position a respectable position and make India developed, we should be united together. In the same session, Swaraj, Swadeshi, National Education, and Boycott, this four-point program was unanimously accepted by the Indian National Congress. Yes, and in the same session, Indian National Congress accepted this four-point program as our, you can say, firm step against the British. Due to Swadeshi movement, we will be self-sufficient. To follow the path of Swadeshi, we need to bring together capital, resources, manpower, and such other forces, and from this, the benefit of the country could be achieved. Yes, students. So, in this four-point program, Swadeshi was also one of them. So, with increasing of Swadeshi products, what we can do? We can increase our employment. Rather, accepting Videshi, we should accept and use Swadeshi goods. This was the slogan given everywhere. It was decided that boycotting of foreign goods is the first step and boycott of foreign rule will be the next step. Due to boycott, we will be able to attack the roots of British imperialism was the opinion of some of the leaders. Yes, my dear students, what the leaders told? First step, to boycott the foreign goods, and second step, to boycott the foreign rule was the slogan given everywhere. So in this way, it was a very good step taken by our leaders. Now we will be looking the differences between moderates and extremists. Yes, there came a point where some differences took place between the moderates and the extremists. See here, the differences between the ideologies of Indian National Congress rose to great extent in the Surat session in 1907. Yes, when the session took place at Surat in 1907, there we saw a great difference between the two, that is moderates and extremists. The moderates were trying to keep aside the resolution of Swadeshi and boycott. The extremists trying that this opposition should not be successful. Yes, moderates were not of the opinion that these two, that is Swadeshi and boycott, should be adopted, and extremists were not ready. They wanted them. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta, such moderate leaders blamed that the extremist leaders are trying to capture the Indian National Congress. Moderate leader, what they thought? Extremist leaders are, they want to get control over the Indian National Congress. Hence, they are forcing us to accept these programs. Lala Lajpat Rai tried to act as a mediator. As per Tilak's opinion, Indian National Congress was a national platform, hence, it should not be divided. During the session, the tension increased, and since no compromise was possible, finally, there was a split in the Indian National Congress. Yes, my dear students, some leaders tried their level best, such as Lala Lajpat Rai. He tried to mediate between both of them to solve this matter, but the tension arose. It didn't, you can say, stopped. It rised and rised. And what was the result? Finally, two groups formed in Indian National Congress as moderates group and extremist group. So this was a great setback for our country and for the Indian National Congress party, as it was a big platform for all of us and it was divided into two parts. Now we will see suppression of the British. After anti-partition movement, the government was disturbed. Looking at the influential public protest, to control this movement, the government used the policy of suppression. Yes, students. So when Britishers saw that after anti-partition movement, it looked disturbed. So how to control them? So because of that, the government brought about the policy of suppression. Holding of public meetings was legally banned. Strict punishments were given to those who broke the law. School children were also beaten up. Many restrictions were imposed on newspapers. Many printing presses were confiscated on grounds of blame of criticizing the government. Yes, students, one after another, Britishers brought about many strict rules in which, when they saw that with the help of these things, they did anti-partition movement. So they started, you can say, banning all this, you can say, things. See, first of all, public meeting was banned. Yes, no one can hold the public meeting now. Strict punishment given for those who will break the law. And they didn't spare even school going children. They started beating them. Many bans were put up on newspapers also. Many printing press were stopped, confiscated on grounds that they are publishing false news. So all these restrictions were brought about by the Britishers. Writers and editors were imprisoned. Strict actions were taken against the extremist leaders. This led to a severe reaction in Bengal. The revolutionaries adopted the means of firing bomb blasts, etc. These bomb attacks were advocated through Kesari newspaper by Lokmanya Tilak. The charge of sedition was put on Lokmanya Tilak, for which he was sent to Mandela jail at Myanmar for 6 years imprisonment. Bipin Chandra Pal was sentenced to jail and Lala Lajpat Rai was deported from Punjab. Yes, students. So to weaken our protest, to weaken our strength, Britishers, you can say, started, you can say, they took such kind of steps in which maximum and big leaders of our Indian National Congress were imprisoned. They put the charges of sedition on Lokmanya Tilak and put him to jail, in, you can say, put him in Mandala jail. Then Bipin Chandra Pal was also sentenced to jail and Lala Lajpat Rai was deported from Punjab, sent to some other place. In this way, British government wanted to weaken our strength, our power, through which we were fighting against them, and they brought about this policy of suppression. Now, establishment of Muslim League. The British became very disturbed looking at the overwhelming response to the Indian National Congress in the anti-partition movement. So when Britishers saw that Indian National Congress got a very good response in anti-partition movement, now Britishers understood that we should break this party. Unless and until we break them into various parts, they will become, you can say, more violent and we have to give them independence. So this was a great tension for them. The British once again followed the policy of divide and rule. They started using the propaganda that for safeguarding the interest of Muslims, they should have a separate political organization. Yes, students, as we know, they used the same weapon of divide and rule policy. When they saw that Indian National Congress is becoming more powerful, they thought that we should divide Hindus and Muslims in the name of religion, and in this way we can control them or weaken them. Due to the motivation of British government, a committee of upper class Muslims under the leadership of Aga Khan met Governor General Lord Minto. Due to the motivation from Lord Minto and other British officers, the Muslim League was established in 1906. So Britishers, they lured the Muslim leaders and told them that what should be happened, that this. So Britishers lured the upper class Muslims and told them that we will give you a separate, you can say, for safeguarding your interest, a separate political organization should be set up, and due to which the Muslim League was established in 1906. Next, Morley Minto Act. There was dissatisfaction among the Indians regarding the work of British government. Indians felt that the reason of poverty in India was the economic policy of British. So, as we know, students, Indian people were very much upset on Britishers, and whatever the condition were going on in India, our people believed that it was due to the excessive, or you can say dangerous policies of the Britishers. Hence, Britishers are responsible for that. Oppressive policy of Lord Curzon, exclusion of educated Indians in government services, unjust behavior towards Indians in Africa, all this added to the dissatisfaction of the Indian people. So, one after another, Britishers, they did many unjust policies against the Indian. So, due to which lot of dissatisfaction arose among the Indian. As a temporary remedy on the discontent among Indians, the Morley Minto Reform Act of 1909 was passed. According to this act, it increased the number of Indian members in the Legislative Assembly, and provision of inclusion of some elected Indian representatives in Legislative Assembly was made. In the same act, separate electorates were provided to the Indian Muslims. Due to this conspiracy of the British, the seeds of division in India were sown. So when Britishers saw that lot of dissatisfaction is growing among the Indians, so that's why to lessen them, to lessen this dissatisfaction, they brought about the Morley Minto Act. Due to this act, they increased the number of members of Indians in the Legislative Assembly, given some of the jobs for them, and made separate electrodes for the Muslims. And from this point, they sowed the seeds of, yes, they sown the seeds of hatred among the Indian Muslims and Hindus. Next, we will see now the Lucknow Pact. In the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916, under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, an attempt was made to resolve the dispute in the Indian National Congress. Yes, so the dispute which took place in 1906, still it was going on after 10 years also. So after 10 years in 1916, Lokmanya Tilak, you can say, he wanted to finish this dispute which was going on in the Indian National Congress as among the moderates and the extremists. In the same year, there was an agreement between Indian National Congress and the Muslim League known as the Lucknow Pact. And in the same year, an agreement was done between Indian National Congress and Muslim League. And this agreement is only known as the Lucknow Pact. According to this pact, the Indian National Congress agreed to separate electorates to Muslims, and Muslim League agreed to support the Indian National Congress in its work for getting political rights to India. So both of them, they got agreed. Indian National Congress agreed to give separate electorates to Muslims, and Muslims were agreed to support Indian National Congress in gaining the political rights to India. In this way, this was a This pact was known as Lucknow Pact. Now, next we are going to see is Home Rule movement. In 1914, when Lokmanya Tilak was released from the Mandela jail, the First World War had begun in Europe. The direct consequences of this war had to be borne by India as well. So, my dear students, in 1914, when Lokmanya Tilak was, you can say, released from the jail, and in 1914 only, as we know, First World War had begun. So many consequences were there of this war, and we were also facing, though we were not participating in that war, but due to British were ruling over us, Britishers were participating, hence the consequences of the war were seen on India as well. The rates of basic necessary commodities increased. Many restrictions were put up on the Indians by the British government. This led to increased dissatisfaction in the minds of Indians. In these circumstances, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak started the Home Rule movement. Because of war, many commodity prices increased. You can say Britishers brought about many restrictions, due to which lot of dissatisfaction grew among the Indians. And in this period, in this situation, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak, they started the Home Rule movement. Home rule means self-government. Such movement also began in Ireland against colonialism. On similar lines, Home Rule movement demanded right of self-government in India. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak made extensive tour in different parts of the country, and the demand for self-government reached the common people. Tilak firmly stated that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So, my dear students, same kind of movement was also started in Ireland. So, a good example was there in front of us. So, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak thought, and they took, you can say, initiative, and they made big tours all over the country and started explaining the people to, you can say, start the Home Rule movement. And this was done, in which Lokmanya Tilak gave his very famous slogan of Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Now we will deal with First World War and India. The war atmosphere in Europe, growing dissatisfaction in the minds of Indians, popularity of Home Rule movement. In such condition, it was necessary for the British to get cooperation from the Indians. Yes, Britishers were engaged in World War. In India, dissatisfaction was growing to great extent. Home Rule movement has got its grip everywhere. People were now, you can say, demanding Home Rule movement. So all the conditions were against the Britishers. So now Britishers wanted cooperation of Indians. The British government decided to provide some political rights to the Indians. In 1917, Montague, Secretary of State for India, declared that step by step Indians will be given the right to self-government and responsible political system. So, because of these circumstances, my dear students, it was a, you can say, good step and a good pressure on British government. They agreed to give, you can say, right to self-government step by step. Tilak also declared that if the government is going to show sympathy and considerable attitude towards the demand of the Indians, only then Indian public is ready to cooperate the British. So Lokmanya Tilak also cleared, you want cooperation, we will give you cooperation, no doubt. But first of all, you should show sympathy towards our people, that is Indians. Then only we will cooperate with you. This policy of Lokmanya Tilak is known as responsible cooperation, responsive cooperation. So in this way, it was, you can say, our win. Now, last point we are going to see, students, is Montague-Chelmsford Reform Act. In 1919, the British Parliament passed another act to bring constitutional reforms in India. This act is known as Montague-Chelmsford Reform Act. According to this act, less important departments were transferred to the Indian ministers whereas the important departments like finance, home affairs, and revenue were under the control of the governor. So, though they were showing some sympathy, immediately on the next hand, they took over all the important ministry, important departments in their hand, my dear students. And for this, it was known as Montague Chelmsford Reform Act. So, according to this act, all, and you can say low category departments and which are not so important, it were given to Indians, and all important departments were kept with the Britishers. Home affairs and revenue were under the control of the governor. The 1919 Act did not give much exposure to the demand for responsible government of Indians. Everybody was disappointed due to this act. Tilak criticized the act in following words: "This is neither Swaraj nor its foundation." The Indians understood that if they have to subdue the British government, then the agitation needs to be more rigorous. India got prepared for a new movement. Yes, students. So, as we know, Britishers were not keeping their promise. Every time they used to promise and break it. Same they did. They asked our cooperation. Our people showed them cooperation, but they didn't show sympathy. And again, they brought about various acts against Indians. So, because of this, the discontent again grew among the Indians, and Tilak criticized the British government in the following words, that this is neither Swaraj nor its foundation. And now it was time for all the Indians to get prepared for rigorous action against the British. Then and there only we can achieve the independence. So everyone were prepared for the new movement. So in this way, this chapter ended here, my dear students. In next session, we will see next chapter. Thank you very much.